Julie, if you want to come up and take the chair, we get started as soon as we hit them. 9:45.
I would like to stand over here because projecting to an audience of this nature is difficult, and I need to speak loudly. I want you to hear, but I also want the people out here to hear, and I know that some people are hard of hearing. So I'll stand in this area and try to make myself audible.
Before we start,
Yes.
those standing, there are chairs available there, in the back, and there's two up here. So if anybody would like to sit for the rest of the meeting.
I think I've met everybody here so far except Mr. Kelsey. Mr. Kelsey, good morning. I'm Julie Fisher. I can tell we both used to milk cows at some point in our lives. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak to you today about the Integrated Roadside Vegetation Management Program. That's a big mouthful, and if you can get that out early in the morning, you're pretty good. I want to mention that I'm Julie Fisher. I live at 712 West Main in Decorah. We've lived there now in this community for 13 years and in Iowa since 2003. I appreciate that every position, excuse me, my voice is bad today. I appreciate that every position in public service has a steep learning curve. But I was taken aback by your abrupt decision to eliminate the IRVM program without properly informing the public nor informing all 5 board members of your intention to cut an essential county program. You did not provide any actual budget numbers on the program to justify the savings you desire. The public needs to see your math. Since the work of keeping our roads safe and eliminating noxious weeds and brush must continue, we need to see the math on the program you propose to substitute for the IRVM as well. I speak for many others when I say the action you took was neither fair, transparent, nor respectful of human resources. Your constituents must be able to trust you to make reasoned, transparent decisions based on evidence and results. And I, among many of us here today, ask you for the numbers behind your decision. The Integrated Roadside Vegetation Management Program is more than a program, it's an investment. I ask you to make an effort to understand the science it is based on. The state has promoted this program since its inception in the 1970s. Indeed, Iowa was one of the first states to introduce this plan. Now we, Winneshiek County, are one among 50 counties and 12 cities that have implemented this strategy. We are a leader in reducing herbicide toxins by letting native plants do much of the work for us. They grow roots 10 to 15 feet deep, sometimes more. They form a mass, a community, to choke out shallow-rooted opportunist weeds. They cooperate. And if we could learn that kind of cooperation here, we would maybe survive 10,000 years too. Using the previous model of blanket spraying and mowing, we killed the good with the bad, exposing large patches of bare ground, perfect for weed proliferation. That method was chemical costly, polluted our surface waters, and trapped us in an unending cycle of spray and mow, spray and mow. It did nothing to hold the ground and prevent erosion. IRVM is not one size fits all. It uses different tools adjusted to specific character of the roadsides. In our county's natural vegetation and terrain vary greatly from southwest to northeast. Native plant mixes are seeded where they will thrive. Targeted spraying is used where it is most effective. And in other areas, mowing, burning, and manual removal of trees and brush may be called for, while unwanted trees are chemically removed to prevent regrowth, chemically treated. I have talked with roadside manager Mike Brody from Worth County, who implements the IRVM strategies and reports that the program works effectively under the management of a person who has knowledge of our native plants and weeds and applies the management strategies consistently. We are fortunate to have 2 such persons on staff, Corey Meyer and his assistant Todd Hill. Corey is known among IRVM managers as a leader and go-to professional in this work. A dedicated manager is key, and we have those valuable human resources. And I need to mention here particularly Lee Berkey, who was wise and thoughtful in getting this program instituted in the first place. This is not just another program, it's an investment, a generation in the making. The people of this county have grown it with our tax dollars, and with any capital investment, you don't get the dividends until the investment matures. We are now reaching a place of maturity when the benefits of this investment are going to be felt incrementally every succeeding year. Corey's planting 15 to 19 miles of native plants every year. We will need less chemical, less mowing, and will be able to let the native plants do more of the work they evolved to do. At the same time, we will be enhancing our roadside habitats for wildlife, beneficial insects that our farmers and orchardists need to pollinate their crops. Our roadsides constitute 60% of our publicly owned land in Iowa. We have to respect it and care for it wisely. Iowa has been receiving increasing amounts of rain, an average of 1.25 inches more each decade, counting from the 1970s. And we now have a record of 40% more two-day rain events. Our native plants here 10,000 years since the last ice age are adapted to absorbing water like a sponge. We need them to hold the soil and prevent roadside erosion. I have sent to each one of you a series of 4 pictures of what happened in Pottawatomie County after the Missouri flooded in 2011. Everything was covered. The road was covered, the plants were covered. When the Missouri receded, the native plants were still there and the road was intact. And you can see it for yourselves. The Living Roadway Trust Fund was specifically created to support counties in implementing the IRBM plans. And our county has benefited from grants of seed mixes and expensive equipment. Grants have stipulations. If you eliminate the plan, will you have to give back the equipment? That would constitute a considerable loss. How much of the budget has come from the grants? Grant obligations need to be accounted for in your figures. Winneshiek County has invested a generation of our monies, our trust, our expertise, and darn hard work in building this state-of-the-art proactive program based on scientific evidence. Effective and efficient, it maintains safe, erosion-resistant, environmentally healthy, and wildlife-friendly roadsides. If we cut this program now, we lose those benefits. IRVM is an investment that will continue to bring dividends for generations to come. I ask you to follow the oath of your office to work for the benefit of the entire county by making an effort to understand the science behind this program and to evaluate the investment we have already made. I ask you to provide your map for public scrutiny and finally to revisit your abrupt decision. Everybody makes mistakes. The really big people are the ones that say, I made a mistake, I learned something, I can do it differently. Thank you very much for your hearing my concerns and for your time. I also have a copy of a white paper produced by the state supervisor of this IRBM program. It is very interesting, it is very good reading, and there's lots of other material there that you can benefit from. Here's copies of my talk. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Next on the agenda, Andy Van Run. Legal questions regarding agenda and other issues.
Okay, we have a few things to talk about. Last week, Monday's action taken regarding the roadside management program. I have since received 3 complaints from the Iowa Public Information Board regarding that action being taken in violation of what was on the agenda. There wasn't proper notice of it, and I think those complaints have merit. I think they are correct after reviewing the agenda. My suggestion would be that first step in that regard would be to move to rescind the action taken at the February 6th meeting. That is, that, as we discussed last week, can only be done by supervisors who voted in favor of it. I would follow that suggestion. I think there is obviously interest in being heard on this issue from the board. It seems to me that if your budget for the upcoming fiscal year includes removing the program from the budget, the opportunity for all these folks who want to talk to you about that and to talk to you in a public hearing format, it seems to me the hearing on the budget would be the place to do that. In the interim, if you have concerns about expenditures for that program, keep in mind that there are certain expenditures that are mandated by state law. You also have expenditures for payroll that last week's motion and your action this week do not address, so you're going to need to pay payroll and benefits to employees who work in that program. They can be, they can be doing the state mandated work. They can be assigned other responsibilities by the engineer's office. They're secondary road employees, so they have, there's work for them to do beyond roadside management, and that issue is going to need to be addressed as well. Finally, I would suggest that that you perhaps ask the engineer's office to provide you with a report with information that you need or want to be able to communicate to the public and to consider when it comes time for the budget hearing. The impression and feedback that I've gotten from various people since last week has been that the numbers being discussed are need to be confirmed, that there is some information that appears to be missing from some of the budget materials, line items and that type of thing. So I think it would just be, I think it would be important for you, in order to make a decision on this, to request whatever information you feel is either missing or is important to you to consider, and to have that available at the budget hearing. With those three items, that's what I have for last Monday's.
The next items that are on the agenda are board discussion items. If it does come to the point where we decide that we want a meeting for the integrated roadside vegetation management, that would be available in a public hearing, as Andy stated, when the budget process comes. And that's where everyone would get a voice at that point in time. So at this point, it is a board discussion, and we will proceed there. So, discuss and possibly act on reconsideration of action taken at the February 6, 2023 meeting concerning roadside management. And I believe this would be a very good idea, as the legal authority has consulted us.
I move to rescind the action taken on February 6, 2023 Board of Supervisor meeting, terminating the roadside management program.
Yeah, I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Possible consideration of action to suspend funding for the roadside.
I move to direct the county engineer to suspend inquiring any expenses other than the wage and benefits for the roadside management, except as required by law, until receiving further notice from the Board of Supervisors following the budget hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
We weren't involved in any discussion on that motion as a board member. I didn't hear about this until just now.
We were directed by legal.
Legal. council to do this.
You were
take
directed
action.
by our county attorney to
Well,
freeze funding?
No,
that
Oh.
is,
That
that was
is-
taken out of context. He said if the board wanted to consider it or go along with the roadside management program, we would not just terminate it at this point in the game, because we have other things that are associated with it that it has to be paid for by the county. And, this is a way of still addressing those needs for the county and suspending the roadside management program for now.
So what does that do for cost savings? What would this help with?
That's what
Why
we're
not
gonna-
continue it?
that's what this here motion is for.
Temporarily suspending it, and we will see where the funding comes. When we have our meeting with Lee, we'll address him as to the needs and wants we have.
The meeting later in today's meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess I would say, why would we suspend it
Right.
if we're not sure we're gonna, if there's lots of parts still needed in that? Does that put the cart ahead of the horse, so to speak?
Well, I guess that's your take on it.
It'd be great to see the numbers of the accounting of what the actual savings would be and what we still have to do and commit to.
We
Rather than
have
having
the
to
people.
reinstate it again.
We have the employees working on it, we have the equipment, we have the grant money.
The employees will stay in place at this point.
Right, and doing the work. So what is the point of suspending it when the work is being done and there's a lot of moving parts in this and a lot to consider? The damage you do by suspending it and creating this fervor around it doesn't help our community for the program. But I don't understand the logic on this.
This is to come up with figures, we're just gonna suspend inquiring any other expenses right now, other than until we come up with the figures to show, to prove one way or the other, if it's good or if it's bad.
What expenses are those besides
You
the
got it.
regular work that's being done with it right now? What expenses?
Because that's,
What our ask is gonna be.
that's what our ask is, because you look in the road, we see no, we want an item, we're gonna have an itemized expense of the roadside budget, because we don't have one, is what we're after.
So where is the harm in continuing? I still don't see that number or that reasoning.
What are we continuing at this point, Shirley? I'm not exactly sure. We're suspending the particular, we're not seeding, we're not putting in wildflowers. We're doing brush clearing, but that's involved with all of our roadside crews. On Friday, every member of our roadside crews was out cutting brush. They weren't maintaining roads. We have plenty of things to do, so it's not we have two people we're talking about that are gonna be reassigned to other duties, is what it appears to me.
Well, I guess my thing, why would we suspend something that we're not totally sure anything really cutting?
We ain't suspending, we're suspending acquiring any expenses, is what we're suspending. Do not acquire any more expenses.
What does that mean, though? Like what the expenses be?
Like you're gonna go buy something, purchase anything,
That's suspended.
that's suspended. That'll be suspended till after we got
It's
discussion. We got some things here we can discuss after, when Lee's on for his thing.
Well, we're discussing, the current motion is to
Yep.
suspend the programs. We're discussing that.
No, not suspend the program. I did not say that.
Suspend the
Suspend the
funding.
expense, the
Suspend
funding.
the expense. Let me just ask you.
Except for required by law.
So we're not suspending the program. That will continue. You're suspending the funding. Is that your motion?
Yes.
So there'd be no claims
Yep,
put in.
right here.
Suspending the funding only, not the program. To be clear.
Yes, that's.
It says
exactly
to
what I-
suspend incurring any expense other than wage and benefits and those required by state law, is what his motion was.
Okay.
So we have a motion, and a
I'm
second.
not done answering questions yet. So when you say suspending funding, does that include like no buying chainsaw oil or chainsaw
That would-
blades for cutting
Is that
brush?
for?
The
well,
secondary road fund has their own chainsaws there and everything there.
Does it include doing no outside maintenance on equipment if it breaks down while you're doing the mowing or the brush cutting?
I guess that would be a
I mean,
question for Lee on what, how his department is set up.
Then I think that this motion is premature because we don't even know what expenses we're talking about. I don't think we're going to be incurring that many more
It'd be
additional expenses while we do
purchasing
the
any
work.
new equipment, sprays, et cetera, a lot on that order, that it would, you'd need for spraying or whatever.
So with the,
For spraying,
And I'll,
whatever.
why don't I just give you a little insight to what we are gonna ask Lee, I mean, because it's gonna come up in the meeting anyway. It's, we direct the county engineer to provide a report to the Board of Supervisors analyzing the costs associated with maintaining the roadside management program in its current form versus utilizing secondary road department for the responsibilities required by statute. The report should also identify all equipment purchased for the roadside management program and include whether any grant money imposes a restriction on the use or sale of such equipment. Also, the engineer's report should identify any current or ongoing projects of the roadside management program, the status of the projects, and cost savings or expenses expected from the cancellation of any such project. And the report will be due before March 15th, 2023.
So I think we are getting the cart in front of the horse here. Maybe we table the current motion till after we hear from the BRP later in today's meeting, so we get better answers to the questions we have right now.
Well, I think
on
we'll
this
get the
motion.
same answers either way, Shirley.
Then why not wait and hear from Lee, because we are getting the cart in front of the horse on this.
one question I guess would be, there's, it looked like you were purchasing a tractor, it's already been purchased. Is that paid for, or is that still in balance of not being bought?
That's a question for Lee now. So we're, you guys want us to make a decision when we don't have the answers we need to make the decision at hand. So I would suggest we table that until we can hear from Lee and then possibly to another meeting, so we can get the information we need on this.
So we agree with that.
What do you guys?
I guess I made a motion, you got a second.
Okay, if they're not willing to rescind their motion, I guess we'll call it to a vote.
Point of order, but I've asked it to be tabled. Does that take precedent over the first and second motion?
Making a motion to table that, not, you
Yes.
just said suggested, I didn't know. how
I am
to-
making a motion to table.
We have a motion to table, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of tabling the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion fails, 3-2. Now we have a motion to suspend funding for the roadside management. We have a second on that, so we'll call that to a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same sign.
No.
No,
Motion carries.